We're going to be applying some of this factoring stuff to actual real life scenario and solving an actual legit problem using it. And it kind of looks at the beginning like one you've already done, but you got to take it further now. So in this first problem, it says you have a 10 by 9 inch rectangle, you have a 10 foot by 9 foot garden. If you add a uniform walkway around the garden, that means it's the same on every side all the way around. The area ends up as 306 square feet. Find the width of the walkway. Okay, so the first thing I take a look at is, get a decent marker right with here. Hold on. I want to get a dark marker so you can see better what's going on. Okay, so we have this walkway that's 10 by 9 feet, as you can see. Okay, but the walkway on every side is X. So what I've done is I set up a length times width parentheses, and it doesn't really matter which one's length, which one's width. So the length, it's 2 X's and then a 10. So 2X plus 10. And we multiply by that by the width, which is 2X plus 9. Okay, so now I need to find that product by multiplying, okay? It's a step 1, step 2 process to multiply two binomials together. Take your 2x, so 2x times 2x. 2x multiplied by 9. 10 multiplied by 2x. And 10 multiplied by 9. Okay, again, all those x's have powers of 1. Okay, so it's 4, 1 plus 1's 2. 18, and then x to the first. 20, x to the first, and then 90. Okay, so I can check that off. Now I can combine like terms. So my highest power is a 2. So blank x squared plus blank x plus blank. Okay, so I've got 4x squared. 18 plus 20 is 38. And then we have our 90. Now that's the area, okay? But the area we know is equal to 306, okay? So I know that this can be carried down and set equal to 306. You just carry that expression down. Okay, now we have to find the two answers for x because the equation's got two answers because it's x to the second power. Okay, now whenever I'm finding two answers to do this, you don't have your zeros, so you need to move the 306, subtract it from both sides, okay? So what could I subtract 306 from on the other side? Well, how about 90? That'll work. Okay, so I now have 4x to the second plus 38x. And then I take 90 minus 306. That's negative 216. Okay, now I have 0. Okay, and from there I underline these, and there's 3 terms, so that's why we're going to look for a GCF and the T table. Okay, GCF, I don't have a negative in front. I don't have X on everything. Okay, so on my greatest common factor calculator, now I want to check and see if 438 and 216 divide by 216 divide by anything. Those, you wouldn't know that right off the top of your head, and it's 2. Okay, so the GCF, actually, I do need to do that step because there's a GCF of 2. So I'm going to factor a 2 out, but just 2, not 2x. And then I divide these by 2. Okay, so 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then we have our x to the second power, because I'm not dividing by x. 38 divided by 2 is 19. And then negative 216 divided by 2 is negative 108, so I put minus 108. Okay, so now the GCF's out. Now I want to run my ABC from here, from the parentheses. So I take A times C, so that's positive 2 times negative 108. That gives me a product of negative 216. So I would be looking for a difference that would equal my B, which is 19. Okay, that's not 19. 216 divided by 2 is 108, but 108 minus 2 is not 19. 216 divided by 3 is actually 72, but that's not 109. That's not 19. 216 divided by 4, okay, is let me think here. 52. No, it's not 52. 54. Okay, that's not 19. 216 divided by 5 is a decimal. 216 divided by 6 is 36. That's not 19, although we're getting closer. 216 divided by 7 is a decimal. 216 divided by 8 is 27. And 27 minus 8 is 19. Okay, so I got my two values. Okay, my 19 right here, that's a plus, so we need plus 27. And on story problems, you're almost always doing differences, okay, so the signs will not match. Okay, now what does A equal? Now up here, A, my x squared has a 2 in front of it, so I say A is 2x squared, so it's not a 1, so we need to make 4 parentheses, okay? So I write 2, but then I break the x squared down at this point to x, and then minus 8 and plus 27. 2 and 8, the greatest common factor is 2. So that would give me 1x minus 4. Cross that out then. 2 and 27, the GCF is 1, so that'll just stay 2x plus 27. Okay, now that GCF of 2 that we had, try to remember to carry that down. Now it doesn't have an x, so I'm not going to F it, okay? I'm going to have this be F1 and this be F2, okay? Sometimes that might have an x though, so you'd have to include that in your factoring. Okay, so 1x minus 4 could equal 0, or 2x plus 27 could equal 0. So I box my 1x up, plus 4, 1x equals 4, and that's my answer, 4. Okay, minus 27, that's negative 27, then I divide by 2. Negative 27 divided by 2 is negative 13.5. Okay. All right, now we disqualify the negative on a story problem, okay? So really the only answer to the problem itself is 4. The equation has 2 answers, but then the problem is just a positive. So these x's I didn't know, well now I know they're 4 inches, or 4 feet, sorry, okay? So 10, 4, 4, and then 9, 4, 4. Okay, not all that fun to be honest with you, okay? Next one, a rectangular trivet has an 8-inch by 6-inch center and a wooden uniform border. If the area is 120, that's supposed to say is, okay, is 120 inches squared, how wide's the border? So when I'm dealing with shapes, I first want to kind of block the problem off. You want a little bit more room down here than you're going to need up here. So I draw the shape. And the shape, kind of small, is 8 by 6, and then there's this border around the outside. Okay, so we know the 8, and then x, 6, and then x and x. Okay. Alright, so I set up my length and width parentheses right here. So that's 2x plus 8 multiplied by 2x plus 6. Okay, so I carry out my 1-2 process. Okay, so step 1, I take 2x times 2x. I take 2x multiplied by 6. I take 8 multiplied by 2x. And I take 8 multiplied by 6. So 1, 1, 1, 1. So 2 times 2 is 4, and that would be x to the second. That's 12, and that's just x to the first. 16x to the first, and 48. Okay, so check that off. That's done. Highest power is at 2. Okay, so the x squared's a 4. The x, I know I've got 12 plus 16, that's 28. Then I've got my 48. Okay, now I actually know what the area is. Okay, I know the area is actually 120 square inches, so it's equal to 120, and then I just drop this expression down. So 4x to the second power plus 28 times x plus 48. Okay, now there are 2 answers, and at this point in the class, when we're finding 2 answers, we need to find our 0. Okay, and I don't have one at this point, so I subtract 120, and I can subtract that from 48. Okay, so I have 4x to the second plus 28x, and then 48 minus 120 is negative 72, so minus 72 equals 0. Okay, now I underline the big guys and I count 3. So again, the way to factor that equation, because that's what you're going to have to do to solve it, is the GCF and then the T chart. Okay, so I want to split that in half, and this is for my parentheses. I'll want to know what A is eventually. So do you have the negative in front? No, I don't think you do. Do you have X on all the numbers? No, so you can't put an X down. And then I go 4, 28, 72. Okay, and it says the GCF is actually 4. Okay, so it means I divide all of them by 4, but just 4, not 4x. Okay, so 4 divided by 4 is 1, and that would stay to the second power. 28 divided by 4 is 7, that's x. And then 72 divided by 4 is 18. Okay, now I run my ABC test from the parentheses, not up here. Okay, A, B, and C. Okay, so I do my chart and I take A times C. So I'll take positive 1 times negative 18. Okay, well that's negative 18. So again, it's a difference. And we're finding a difference that would equal 7. Okay, so 1 and 18. 18 minus 1 ain't 7. 18 divided by 2 is 9. 9 minus is 7. Okay, so there's my numbers. Now that 7 was plus, so 9's plus. And on a difference, the signs will be the opposite. Okay. Now A is your x squared number, not up here, right here. It's 1x squared. So since A is just a 1x squared, if it's a 1, I just can do 2 parentheses, because 1x squared is always x times x when broken down. Then minus 2 plus 9. Okay, so my GCF of 4 will drop down here, but it doesn't have an x, so I don't put an f with it. F1, F2. Remember, the equation equals 0. That's why both factors, x minus 2 can equal 0. Or x plus 9 can equal 0. Okay, if you want to put 1s in front and box them, go for it. So 1x equals 2, so I end up with positive 2. And negative 9. Okay, so negative 9. And the negative answer can be disqualified from the answer to the problem. I still want to see it there, but then we cross it out, and the positive answer is 2. So that border that originally I had x's for, I now know that x is 2. So 8, 2, 2, 6, 2, 2. That's going to be what's going to happen. Okay, the last one. A rectangular pool has dimensions of 40 by 20 feet. A uniform border is added around the walkway, creating an area of 1,125 square feet. Find the width of the border. Okay. All right, so I draw my thing up here, my shape off to the right. Now, I don't want to do it right in the middle because I'm going to need that space, okay, eventually. So I know I've got 40 by 20. And then 40 and 20, and then x and x, and then 20x and x. Okay, so I need to multiply them up, write an expression for the area, okay, because they're talking area. So it's going to be, again, 2x plus 40 multiplied by 2x plus 20. Okay, so that's a 1-2 step process. First step is to get all my products arranged. So 2x times 2x, 2x times 20, 40 times 2x, and 40 times 20. Okay, 1, 1, 1, 1, so that's 4. And then x second, that's going to be 40, x to the first, 80, x to the first, and that's going to be 800. Okay, so check that off. And now my second power. Okay, so my second power is a 4. And then 40 plus 20 is 120. 40 plus 80 is 120, sorry. And then 800, okay? Now I carry that expression down here. I actually know what the area is. It's 1,125. Okay. And then I just carry this down. 4x to the second plus 120x plus 800. Okay, because that represents the area, but when I know what the area is, I can equal it out to the area. Okay, we have to find the two answers for the x, is what we're doing. Okay. So if we're doing that, we have to have this equal to 0. So I have minus 1,125. That can go with 800. So I have 4x to the second plus 120x. 800 minus 1,125 is negative 325. Okay, so it's 3 terms. So I want to check for the greatest common factor. And then I'm going to need to run my t-test. I know that's the plan, okay? To solve these kinds of equations, you got to know your plan. Okay, greatest common factor, no negative. You don't have x on all of them. There's no x on this. So if I go 4, 120, comma, 325. I get 1. Lovely. Okay, so I don't have to do that. ABC, so it's going to be 4 times negative 325, and that's negative 1,300. And that's to be a difference of 120. Now I'm going to tell you what this is. If you would divide this by 10, okay, you get 130. Well, 130 minus 10 is 120, so it is these two. I just didn't want to make you suffer through a bunch of it. Okay, so the 120 is positive, okay, and difference means they're opposite, okay. So I know that my A is, there was nothing here, so I have to go up to my A, which is 4x squared. If it ain't a 1x squared, we need to make 4, okay, and that 4 needs to be split. So x, and then minus 10 plus 130. Okay, GCF of 4 and 10 is 2. Okay, so if it gives 2, that's 2x minus 5. GCF of 4 and 130 is 2 as well. Okay, you'd have to punch that one in. Probably 2x plus 65. And there was no GCF. Okay, so I have my F1, my F2 factors to get my two answers. Okay, so 2x minus 5 can equal 0, or 2x plus 65 can equal 0. So I add 5 to both sides. 2x equals 5. Divide by 2. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. Okay, so that'll work for an answer. Okay. And then here, minus 65, minus 65. So 2 times x is equals negative 65. So to find what x is, we divide by 2. Okay, that's actually negative 32.5. So 2.5, negative 32.5. We can disqualify the negative 32.5. Okay, so 2.5 is the legitimate answer. So it's 2.5 feet in each direction.